Hey guys, Scott and Nate from PlayYourCourt.com here, and today we're going to show you how to hit a beginner forehand. All right, so today we're talking about the beginner forehand, and this video is for players with a PlayYourCourt rating of 49 and below. If you're not in our community or familiar with our rating system already, this is the equivalent of a beginner level tennis player or a USTA 2.5. And this is important, guys, because professional level tennis players have a much different looking forehand than what we're going to teach you out of the gates. So you might see a beautiful Roger Federer loop on TV. That's not what we're going over today. We'll definitely work towards that, but you've got to walk before you can run. So today we're going to go over the beginner forehand. So if you were taking your first tennis lesson with me and we were getting ready to go over the forehand, the very first thing after you grow a fantastic beard,
or just an average beard,
or just an average beard, would be the grip. So we're going to go over the beginner grip first. Very simple way to learn this. I want you to take your racket and put it flat on the ground. And if you can zoom in here on my hand, take the web of your hand or the V of your hand and put it flat on top of your racket and then pick it up. What you'll see here, that V of my hand is flat on the grip on top, strings are pointing up towards the sky, and I've almost got a grip here where I could sort of flip pancakes in a frying pan.
And guys, what you want to be careful here is tension, right? Like Scott's all veiny and stuff. He's
nervous.
been in the gym.
It's the girls, they're making me nervous, Nate.
He's been getting all buff. But we don't want this tension. It's going to affect the stroke. So make sure that you don't have a death grip here. Someone should be able to literally take the racket out of your hand. No one's going to steal your racket.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, so relaxed hands. All right, so now you've got the grip. Just for sake of explanation, this is called a semi-Western forehand grip. This is really, if we got you out on the court, this is what we would want you to learn over the course of maybe a half an hour of instruction with us. If you get out there and this just feels terrible, we're also going to go over a backup grip later today that might be a little bit easier to digest. So if you get out there and this feels awful, when you get started, that's normal. You're going to work your way through it. But now that we've got our beginner semi-Western forehand grip, Nate, let's talk about what to do with it. Let's talk about the swing path a little bit, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get in our ready position. The game is played in front of us, right? So our ready position with our semi-Western grip, the racket is going to be in front of us. And you'll notice the racket is slightly closed towards my left foot with me being a righty. All right, from my ready position, I'm going to take the racket back with my shoulders and my hips getting on the side of my body. And what you'll notice here is the racket plane didn't change. And then from here, I'm going to enter something really important called pet the dog.
Step 2, buy a huge dog, right? So step 1 was grow a beard. Step 2, you got to buy a huge dog. Sorry, carry on.
All right, growing up, I had a big dog, and what would often happen is that I would be in a conversation, he'd come up and lick my hand because he wanted to be pet. So I would pacify him. I'd reach back and pet the dog, hence this name for the stroke, right? And what I want you to notice here is that the butt cap is facing forward, the racket is below my wrist, and it's on the side of my body, all right? And from here, I would be swinging up to the contact point, which is in front of me. Not entirely, you're not reaching for the ball here, but slightly in front of you, and it will stay on that same plane until it does a fancy word, pronation. We'll talk about that in a whole nother video. It's going to happen on its own if your contact is in front. That's the good news. And then I'm going to get to my follow through.
Nate, where would I follow through? I mean, I watch a lot of tennis on TV and I coach a lot of different players. I see a lot of different follow throughs. Is there a right or wrong way to do this?
Excellent question. There's an infinite amount of follow throughs, right? They're always going to change. Maybe you see Nadal way up here, or you see Fed down here. For now, I think the primary focus in your follow-through is to keep even with the shoulder or slightly above the shoulder, right? But if you're really having a hard time getting under the ball and lifting, you're hitting the net, maybe you're hitting just 2 feet in front of you, which happens a lot in the very beginning with the semi-Western grip. Let's focus on getting under the ball and finishing high. Really pronounce that follow-through to give it that extra lift.
Perfect. All right, so guys, that was Nate covering the semi-Western forehand grip. As promised, I'm going to give you a backup option. There's a good chance with the semi-Western forehand grip, when you get out on the court for the first time, you're going to hit a lot of balls in the net. And if I can switch spots with you here for a second, Nate. When I make contact with the ball with a semi-Western forehand grip, the natural tendency is to have my strings pointing very, very close or pointing down towards the ground. All right. The adjustment we'd like you to make, and this is inevitable, you're going to get out there, you're going to start and pet the dog, you're going to reach up, you're going to follow through, and you're going to hit balls in the bottom of the net and say, man, Scott and Nate are the worst instructors I've ever heard in my life. This grip doesn't work. And we get it. So step one, I would say, try and adjust that racket face at contact to get it a little closer to perpendicular. You do want the strings pointing down because the strings are going to grip the ball and generate the topspin that we were talking about. But if you're just not getting this, let's say you've been trying this for 10, 15 minutes and you just can't get the handle of it, I want to give you a grip that you can at least switch to that's close in a progression towards a semi-western that just makes you more comfortable and will allow you to get the ball back over the net and start having some fun hitting the ball back and forth. What this grip is called is the Eastern forehand grip. So we talked about in the semi-western taking the V of your hand and putting it flat on top of your racket. What I would say for the Eastern is to just shift your hand, and if you zoom in on my hand here, what you'll see is my hand is completely behind the racket now. So semi-western would have been it's kind of underneath. Eastern, my hand is completely behind the racket, and this is just going to feel a lot more stable for you beginners as you make contact with the ball. Your racket's more perpendicular to the ground, your strings aren't pointing down. It's going to be a lot easier to drive through, lift up, and follow through. So again, if the semi-western isn't something that's clicking for you right away, don't get discouraged. Switch to Eastern, or maybe somewhere in between, right? Maybe you're somewhere in between Eastern and semi-western, and each time you get on the court, you're working towards semi-western. That's fine, all right? So those are the grip options that we have for you beginners. All right, so in closing, there's 3 things we want you thinking about as you work on your beginner forehand. Number 1 is what we just finished talking about, the grip. You've got the options, right, Nate? You've got the semi-western and you've got the Eastern. Again, we hope you work towards semi-western, but if you just can't get there right out of the gates, Eastern is fine. We talk about starting low with pet the dog, and then we talk about following through high, at least up to our shoulders for now. We'll talk about some different follow-throughs, but we want to see at least over your shoulder. If you think about these 3 things, you're going to have a lot of success and start getting some balls over the net, hopefully having some fun out there on the tennis court. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I really want you to improve your tennis game. The problem is I don't really know anything about you or your skill level. So what I want you to do, click the button below, answer a couple of quick questions for me about your game. I'm then going to send you custom tailored content with things that you specifically need to be working on to improve your game. Just click the button below, answer a couple of questions, and I'll do the rest.